Well, ladies and gentlemen, we are now learning some of the policies that Donald Trump will be enacting when he gets back into the White House. You can see President elect Trump vows to end birthright citizenship for children of illegal migrants on his first day in office. And this is something that absolutely must be done. There's really, if you're going to go hard against illegal immigration and deport all of the illegal immigrants, starting with the criminals, the people that have children that are already illegal in this country, the kids are also illegal. So the kids also need to be deported as well. That's just the reality of it. I know some people are like, well, you can't do that. I'm somebody, it's selective immigration. Listen, if somebody has a 130 IQ and they're very smart and they're an asset to the country, there can be exceptions. But the vast majority that are not here legally and the children that aren't here legally, they need to be deported, and that's why Trump wants to end the birthright citizenship. If you've got illegals that come over, they have like 7 or 8 kids, that's a big issue. And you're not really fixing the problem by just deporting the parents. That would make it worse because then you're separating them, and this was something that was talked about on 60 Minutes where the dude was like, yeah, they can be deported together. And people were like, well, that's bad. Well, there has to be a line drawn at some point. We must protect our own country. So yes, this is something that there are conservatives that don't want to do this. They think it's too harsh. They think, it's not the kid's fault. Well, no, it's not the kid's fault. But at the same time, that's a crazy loophole. You're not really fixing the situation. It's like a Band-Aid almost, a very small Band-Aid if you just deport the parents, because especially if they have a lot of kids, they all need to be deported. And they're going to start with the criminals. They're going to start with the really bad people. But this is what Trump was put in to do. He's going to have the Senate, maybe 55, 56 seats. And by the way, he's the reason. I mean, you've got these senators who they can't perform as well as Trump. And that's why some of them lost in the Rust Belt and other places, Arizona, Nevada. But Trump is still going to have the Senate. He's going to have the House. It's going to probably be a slim majority in the House. You would have liked to seen a little bit better of a performance there. But there's no excuse to not get this ball rolling ASAP when it comes to this illegal immigration problem in this country. And also just in general, when it comes to the wall, I was critical of Trump more so because I wanted a grandiose symbolic wall. And they're like, well, they can't do that because of the way the border with Mexico is. And there's issues. I wanted a continuous wall that was like 40 or 50 feet high. And the whole thing with Mexico paying for it. Listen, if we wanted Mexico to pay for it, Mexico would have paid for it, but it would have included a show of force by the United States that's really not worth it. So that's really why. But Trump ended up putting the wall into the military budget because, yes, it's a military expense. We're protecting our country. That's protection. That's military. And so that's why. But Trump needs to finish the wall. Just get the wall is going to protect it. It's going to protect things. And it's going to not allow these illegals to come over. And we want just a complete stop. Because even when Trump was president, there wasn't really a stop of the illegal immigration. We need a complete stop of the illegal immigration to basically nothing. That's what I would like to see, or at least get it really, really low. And Trump was getting it really, really low, but a lot of that was due to COVID. He just didn't say that. But it was going down. I'll give Trump credit. It was going down. And it kind of, with Trump's policies, you would think it would go down. But Trump's going to put everything back into place. All the executive orders that Biden took out, they're going back in when it comes to the border, and even more because now the border's in a much worse spot. See, when Trump ran on immigration back in 2015, 2016, it was more so almost out of passion for it rather than it being a crazy problem. Because look at the illegal immigrants under Biden versus Trump. They were a little bit less under Trump, but it wasn't crazy. Well, now it's crazy because Biden gets in, takes everything away, and the illegal immigration's at record all-time highs. So I think Trump is going to go really hard, obviously, against illegal immigration. And when you've got something like this, ending birthright citizenship for children of illegal migrants, well, the migrants are illegal, so how can the kids be legal? How can the kids be legal if the parents are illegal? It doesn't make any sense. And then you're going to separate them either way. If the kids are legal and they're like, oh, they can stay, but the parents must leave, that doesn't make any sense. It's got to end. It's got to be nipped in the butt. And, it's not even this big thing where it's like you can be flexible on it. It needs to be a real strict migration. Strict immigration is what we talk about. Strict. We want it strict. It's not going to be zero immigration. Although with Trump, Trump ran back in 2016. He was a lot more stern on it. He was like, we need to shut everything down. He didn't say shut down. He's still embracing immigrants, but he's just saying do it legally, but it needs to be strict. and we can let people in if they're going to be assets to the country, but it needs to be strict. We're not going to be letting the millions of people into the country every year. That's just not going to happen. And hopefully Trump understands. I think Trump definitely understands that. He realizes that. And so Trump's got this. This is a good thing. Trust me. You're putting a Band-Aid on it if you don't do this. And I know people are like, well, he shouldn't do that. But that's something that should happen there. You've got this. This is Donald Trump's, I think, granddaughter. You inspire us all. Love you, Grandpa. He's taking your rights away, you dumb bitch. Some liberal. But it's like the liberals, they always do this when they lose. It's always this constant like mope session. We're all going to die. I mean, Trump was president in 2016. They're like, oh my God, you're giving him the nuclear code. Look at what's going on across the world. Everyone wants peace now. Hamas wants peace. Trump has already met with Zelensky multiple times. Zelensky knows the gravy train of money is over. It's not going to happen under a Republican regime. And so now Zelensky knows they're going to have to play ball. That's why he took that small part of land in Russia on the border with Ukraine there. But Russia's going to be getting land from Ukraine, very, very likely. They're going to be getting some type of deal, with NATO. I mean, there's no way Ukraine should have joined NATO in the first place. You're just beckoning in the idea for conflict. If you're talking about Ukraine sharing a border with Russia, joining the most powerful military alliance that is against Russia's wishes, I'm sure the United States would be okay with Russia, China, India, North Korea, and then them inviting Mexico into a massive military ground. I'm sure the United States would be okay with that. That's basically the same thing. And it's not me, sticking up for China, for Russia. I'm just saying this is what it is. The Russians lost their land in 91 with the fall of the USSR. So they're pissed off. It's a human thing. And Putin wants to be remembered. And so this is what they do. They try and take land back. It is what it is. It's very reckless for it to happen in the 21st century. But at least it's gotten to the point where right now they are moving the front a little bit western. The Russians are, very slowly though. And they still have those two main regions. I was looking at the map recently. So listen, this is good news. We need some type of peace deal. The left is going to swing in and say, oh, it's appeasement to Putin. Trump's in bed with him. You're giving Putin too much. Under no circumstance should Ukraine join NATO ever. That's ridiculous. That can definitely be in the agreement. That's something that never should have happened. The NATO expansion with all these other European countries is total crap. It makes NATO itself weaker when you add all these small ass countries into NATO that don't really have a military budget anyways. It makes it more of a liability and a higher potential of war. That's like when Finland tries joining. It doesn't make any sense. We've got enough people in this, okay? So it just makes it to where Russia thinks it's more of a threat. And I can understand they're saying, well, what if they invade us? What happens? Well, listen, then we'll deal with it. But we haven't had that issue. And really, NATO, the entire agreement was to guard against the USSR when they had all of that land in Eastern Europe, right after the fall of Nazi Germany. And then that beckoned into the Cold War. And you've got NATO that forms in 1949 with just major superpowers. And at that point, Great Britain was right there with the United States. The United States was still more powerful, especially after World War II. But the United States has become even more powerful. NATO doesn't even make sense at this point. Well, it makes sense, but it's not fair. NATO itself is not fair based on how strong the United States military is. But it is very hard to find a fair military agreement that involves the United States because of how much stronger we are in terms of our budget than so many of these other countries. And it's not to say the United States 1,000% is going to win any war ever, because the military budget does not determine if you win a war. Now, it's going to help for sure, but there's a lot that goes into it. And we're talking about a ground war, obviously, with tactical drones. We're not talking about nuclear bombs. Everyone thinks it's going to be immediately, oh, it's all going to be nukes. Well, not at the start, it's not going to be. Well, we hope we never get there, but I'm just saying, people think it's going to be immediate nukes. I don't think so. I mean, look at Russia, Ukraine. It's just ground war. It's your typical World War II style type fighting with better technology. But either way, guys, I mean, you've got all these leaders across the world. Now China saying, oh, we love the United States. We want peace, whatever. Yeah, Trump's going to put the tariffs in and they're getting pissed off. They're saying prices are going to go up. Trump had tariffs in 2018 and it was fine. And then they're like, well, it increased prices. No, that was the pandemic. And that was liberals that wanted everything shut down and that drove everything up. But the prices were going to go up anyways because of the pandemic and the supply chain. That's the problem, is the supply chain and the amount we rely on the Chinese. That's why Trump's come out and said we need to really, really understand the relationship with China right now. It's not healthy. and it needs to change. The idea that we would rely on the Chinese, a foreign adversary that has said they want to overtake the United States as the number one superpower, we're going to rely on them for many of our goods and import them into our country, and all of our jobs go over to China because it's cheaper for companies there. I mean, that is capitalism 101. But if you tariff it and you incentivize job creation in the United States, we want enough things sourced in the United States to where we can sustain ourselves. That's why I do like clean energy, and I want the United States to build the world's biggest solar panel farm in Arizona, because Arizona gets the most sun hours out of any place in the world. And you've got China that's got the two biggest solar panel farms right now. It makes no sense when we've got the most sun hours. We can power the entire United States with that. But either way, the tariffs are something that has to happen. You have to rip the Band-Aid off. Look at Biden. Biden continues the tariffs, and the Democrats admit, yeah, it's good leverage against China having the tariffs. Our relationship with them is not good, because if you're a company, it's a lot easier to just pack up and go to China and use the slave labor there, because you can mass produce so much more for such a cheaper price. That's not good for the United States. We've got all of our people creating and all the innovators, and they're like, nope, we got to go to China and actually produce everything, and then we'll ship it back to the United States, put the tariffs on it, make it to where it's very hard, and de-incentivize shipping your jobs to China. So Trump's right on the tariffs, but the overall point here, listen, when Trump gets in, there's a lot that needs to be done. I think immigration is going to be one of the biggest things. You've got the Senate, you've got the House. These liberal people, they freak out. It's all gaslighting. Who cares what they say? It was fun in 2016, but now it's just, they're like, pay attention to me. They want all the attention. I don't even focus on them. I don't care. They're like, oh, they're taking my rights. Shut up. Nobody cares. I'm just sick and tired of hearing them. All they do is bitch and cry, and they do the same thing. It's like, feel bad for me. It's like on CNN. It's the same thing that happened in 2016. They're like, oh, I'm not scared about, I'm not, they're like, I'm just scared for all the people that are going to be affected, and it's going to be so bad, and we might get world peace now. It's just so terrible, and all the rights, and it's all crap. It's all feel bad for me, boo hoo. You lost, you're a sore loser. Now you're trying to make everyone else feel bad. But guys, that is going to do it for this video. Make sure you follow me on X. Link to that's always in the description.